which were killing her. If she were home, she'd prop it up on pillows. She'd witnessed more than her fair share of twisted ankles, some on her own body, even more on others, and she knew what to do. Cold compress, elevation, a sibling forced to wait on her hand and foot. Where were her minions when she needed them? But then, off in the distance, she saw a flash of movement, and unless the local beasts had recently made the move to bipedalism, it was quite clearly human. "Hello!" she called out, then thought the better of it and yelled, "Help!" Unless Billy's eyesight was deceiving her, and it wasn't, it really wasn't. Even her best friend, Mary Rokesby, admitted that Billy Bridgerton's eyes wouldn't dare to be anything but perfect. The human in the distance was male, and there wasn't a male of her acquaintance who could ignore a feminine cry for help. "Help!" she yelled again, feeling no small bit of relief when the man paused. She couldn't quite tell if he'd turned in her direction. Perfect eyesight only went so far, so she let out another holler, this one quite as loud as she could make it, and nearly sobbed in relief when the gentleman— oh, please let him be a gentleman, if not by birth, then at least by nature— began to move in her direction. Except she didn't sob, because she never sobbed. She would never have been that sort of a female. She did, however, take an unexpected breath, a surprisingly loud and high-pitched unexpected breath. "Over here!" she called out, shrugging off her jacket so that she could wave it in the air. There was no point in trying to appear dignified. She was, after all, stuck on a roof with a twisted ankle and a mangy cat. "Sir!" she all but hollered. "Help, please!" The gentleman's gait adjusted ever so slightly at the noise, and he looked up. And even though he was still too far away for Billy's perfect eyes to see his face, she knew. No, 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 anyone but him. But of course it was him, because who else would stroll by at her lowest moment, at her most awkward and embarrassing, at the one bloody time she needed rescuing? "Good afternoon, George," she said, once he'd drawn close enough to hear. He put his hands on his hips and squinted up at her. "Billy Bridgerton," he said. She waited for him to add, "I might have known." He didn't, and somehow that made her even more irritated. The world was not in balance when she couldn't predict every inflated, pompous word that rolled out of George Rokesby's mouth. "Getting a bit of sun?" he inquired. "Yes, I rather thought I could use a few more freckles," she snapped. He did not immediately respond. Instead, he removed his tricorn hat, revealing an unpowdered head of thick, tawny brown hair, and regarded her with a steady, assessing gaze. Finally, after carefully setting his chapeau down on what had once been a stone wall, he looked back up and said, "I cannot say that I'm not enjoying this, just a little bit." Any number of retorts danced on Billy's tongue, but she reminded herself that George Rokesby was the only human being in sight, and if she wished to touch her feet to the ground before Mayday, she was going to have to be nice to him. Until he rescued her, at least. "How do you come to be up there, anyway?" he asked. "Cat," said in a voice that might charitably have been described as seething. "Ah." "It was in the tree," she explained, although heaven knew why. It wasn't as if he'd requested further explanation. "I see. Did he?" She rather thought he didn't. "It was crying," she ground out. "I couldn't very well ignore it." "No, I'm sure you couldn't," he said. And even though his voice was perfectly cordial, she was convinced he was laughing at her. "Some of us," she pried her teeth apart long enough to say, "are compassionate, considerate individuals." He cocked his head. "Kind to small children and animals?" "Quite." His right brow arched in that monstrously aggravating Rokesby manner. "Some of us," he drawled, "are kind to large children and animals." She bit her tongue.